background noise from the road going past, so please deal with that and bear with me. But exciting news today. So today should be the day that we finally get this patrol running. It's been so long, it's been more than 6 months, which has been very depressing, so let's not talk about it too much because tears are starting to well up in my eyes, but we're going to get to it. So there's a few things we just need to talk about before we start. So when you're doing the injection pump swap on the GU Patrol, you can use the GU injectors. The GU injectors differ from the GQ ones, being that the number 1 injector on the GU is tall, so it's got the needle lift sensor, and because of that, the geometry of the spill rail and the injector lines changes between the GQ and the GU model. So what I've gone ahead and done is, hang on, so I've got 2 pairs of injector lines here, this being out of the GU, and you can see that the number 1 injector here is slightly taller, and this is the set out of the GQ, and you can see that they're all on the same plane there. So some of the injector lines on this batch that I've got here are a bit rusty, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to swap the the longer number 1 from the GQ spill lines. So yeah, just pretty much if you're going to swap the injectors around, which I've done, I was going to throw GU injectors back on if I could have got them, but it was much easier and cheaper to just get a set of GQ ones because there's no lift sensor, which is for some reason really expensive. So I've got them here. I've got my new GQ injectors here. They come with all of the crush washers needed, and to install them you're going to need a 27mm socket. I think this is also 1 1/16, so 27mm or 1 1/16 socket. This is a 3/4 inch impact socket, so I've just got a 3/4 to 1/2 inch adapter because you're going to need to torque up the injectors pretty tight because there's a lot of compression trying to get past them. Anyway, as well as that, yeah, as I mentioned, got the spill rail, and I've also got a glow plug rail this time because before it was literally just a bunch of wires just bolted down to the glow plugs, which was pretty dodgy, to be honest. Anyway, I think that's enough talk. We've got everything ready to go. So what I'm going to start with is I'm prepping the head to put the new injectors in, and I'm torquing them up now. Okay, so I've got all of the copper washers out of the holes. Number 6 was a massive pain because there was no real angle of attack I could get to get the hammer down. So some of them just came out with the injectors, but other ones were sort of almost seized onto the actual head because it's aluminium and these are copper. But what I did was I just got a screwdriver in at an angle and just lightly tapped on them back and forward until I got them to rotate like that. And then I just brought in another screwdriver and just sort of picked up the edge on them, and they came up fine. Number 6 was just annoying because there was no angle I could get on it. Also, because these are copper, you can hit on them a bit, and you see how ruined the top is, and the bottom's still relatively okay. If there is a tiny bit of pitting on that surface, it shouldn't matter too much because these are crush washers and they will crush to the shape to create a seal on both of the faces. But anyway, I'm going to now, whoopsies, I've found this socket which fits down the hole diameter almost perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a little bit of emery paper and I'm going to stick it right on the top of the socket here and then just run it like that to clean up all of the faces and get them ready to be mated up. Okay, so I've dressed up my injector hole seats the best I can. I'm going to plug up each one that I'm not using now, and I'm going to start assembling and installing the injectors into their homes. I'm going to start with number 1 and work my way back. There might be a bit of pain of access to number 6, but fingers crossed I should be able to get around that. Okay, so we're ready to install the injectors now. So what you'll have is the injector itself, and this is the needle end or the nozzle on it, which is covered up. Just be careful, as the second you remove this cover, you want to be extremely careful not to touch that needle on the end there, because that's your pintle needle. So you'll need 2 washers into the head where the threads go. So there'll be one crush washer here, ooh, didn't touch that needle, and a second crush washer that's one directional, single directional. This is bi-directional, you can install it either way around, but you see how this one here that goes on the very tip of the needle, it's got the U shape to it, the U profile, so that's got to go with the back of the U on the end of the nozzle and the front of it down in there. So when you put it in the head, you put it in with the U facing up, and then you install the injector like this, and make sure to put a touch of anti-seize on the threads there, since it's dissimilar metals in contact to the aluminium head and the steel body of this injector.
Yes, sir.
You feel you've been rehabilitated?
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. I learned my lesson. And I like to say that I'm a changed man. No longer a danger to society. That's God's honest truth. Well, now let me see. No, I don't have any idea what that is.
Okay, so next what we're going to do is throw the pump back on. So I'm just going to slide it through because I've left my cam gear in there, my pump gear. I'm going to slide that through and then push the Woodruff key into the right spot, and hopefully it should all line up. Well, the pump's back on, so I've managed to lose the little spring washer that goes there. It was here 1 minute, next minute I hear it ding, and I don't know whether it's down inside here or down on the floor, but I've been searching for it for about 5 minutes now and I'm starting to really twist off, so I'm just going to throw the spill rail and everything I can on now, and then probably tomorrow, because I'm a bit busy tonight, I'll have another look for it and get everything ready to crank on it. So I was about to throw the spill rail back on with these aluminium crush washers. So you can see these are the old ones if they've already been crushed, and with crush washers you really want to replace them each time you disassemble something with one. The ones that I was sent by the injector place were a completely different size. They had 4 little holes in them and they were made of copper, and you can see the inside diameter is right, but they were too small for the actual size of the spill rail and they'd probably leak fuel out. But luckily I bought a gasket set and they came with brand new ones for the RD28, so I'm going to throw these ones on now. Make sure you put anti-seize on the nut that locks the spill rail down, because if too much friction binds onto the top of the spill rail it might twist it and break it, which is what happened to me when I was disassembling mine. Okay, so I've got the pump supply and the return from the fuel rail. Got the pump supply and the return from the spill rail on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start pulling each cap off and putting my injector lines on. I've decided that I'm going to uncouple all the injector lines and put them on separately, just because it's easier if you can put the injector lines on to the pump while the pump is off the car with these on. It's just if you try and put them on, because they're in batches of 3, it's really difficult to get a proper angle with a spanner on. You'll only get like literally 3 or 4 degrees of turning, which is nothing. So yeah, I'm going to uncouple them all, making sure that I'm putting the GQ number 1 line on, because the different geometry. And then once they're all on, I'm going to hopefully put the battery in and start trying to bleed them. Now I just tried to charge my battery up, and it said there was a battery fault on my charger, which it wasn't doing before, which is a bit worrying, but we're going to ignore that and we're going to try and go for a start today.
So that means you're ready to enjoy science. I know what you mean. Politicians would. Young fella like yourself can wear a suit and a tie. Have a job. What do you really want to know? Am I sorry for what I did? Right?
Okay, so I've tightened down my injector pump nut. I couldn't find the split washer that went on the back. It's gone in the wind. So I just put a normal washer behind there for now, and I might change that later down the track. But because I've had the timing belt off and there's a chance it's jumped teeth, which I'm quite sure it hasn't because I've marked it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the engine a couple of times in the right direction, in a clockwise direction, to ensure that the engine doesn't lock up and pistons don't hit valves. So I just rotate it by hand as well as pumping the priming pump, just to see if I can get any more diesel up to the lines here. And after that's done, I'll throw my battery in. Fingers crossed it's got enough spunk to try and start this, and then yeah, we'll have round 2 at bleeding the injectors. You can hear the fear in my voice. I'm really fucking hoping this works this time. Alright, so this is it, the moment of truth. I've just connected the battery up, all my hoses are tight. I've spun the engine a couple of times to make sure that there's no interference and that the timing's all relatively good. So now that that's all done, I'm going to connect my fuel shutoff solenoid and start cranking on it. I'm going to leave all the injectors loose to start with until I can see fuel coming out of most of them. Then I'll tighten them all up and then start bleeding them individually, making sure that I'm only opening them as the engine's rotating and closing them before the engine stops rotating, so no air gets dragged back in. Well, something's going on. My fuel shutoff solenoid isn't working anymore. So I've got this wire that I used last time, but when I touch my 12 volt positive to it, no noise. Nothing at all. Even when I touch this straight onto the end of it, it doesn't want to start. It doesn't want to open the solenoid. But here I've got the distributor head, or the hydro head, off the old pump, off the 9mm that I bought the GQ pump with. If I rest that on the negative and I touch the top, ooh, there you go. You can hear that. That's opening and closing fine, but my GU one just seems to not be. Don't know why that is. Well, I'm finally back in Perth, and right, I got back in last night at about 7 o'clock, so it's Sunday now, and what I'm going to do is start on the patrol. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure I'm going to make sure by going over everything, but I think I've got every single thing I need to try and turn the key again. So yeah, let's really hope this time that it does fire up. I think I know what the problem was, but in saying that, I did all of the other stuff, injectors and injector pump. Yeah, so let's hope. Okay, so I've made a new line that goes to the shut-off solenoid, and it's clicking nicely now. I've cracked all of the injectors loose. I'm going to crank it a bit until I see fuel come out, and then start tightening them all off, and then loosening them, cranking and tightening them up before I stop cranking, just to stop air getting sucked back down into the lines. Yeah!
Well done, Cooper.
Oh! God, after all that. Yeah! Got it. It only took almost a year. Well, as you saw, it started, thank God. So, this means that now I'm going to start buttoning everything up. I probably won't be driving it today since it's Sunday and I've got TAFE next week. Apparently a pretty full-on block, got a bit of hydraulics, but I'll get as much as I can get done today. I need to leave access to the fuel pump, as I'll need to set the idle and play with the fuel screw a bit So that may mean I don't put the intercooler back on, since there's a brace that bolts up to the firewall and the rad support. But I'll see if I can get it to idle a bit. It looks like the belt for the timing of the pump is trying to work its way off, so I'll see if I can tension it up a bit and find out why that's happening. But yeah, apart from that, it's happy days. It's actually running. So once I get the belt sorted and get it running, I'll see if I can idle it a bit and make sure there's no oil leaks coming from anywhere.